The magazine who releases Record of Ragnarok in Japan just revealed something that may impact the future of the series. For example, Kintoki was voted on by the Japanese fans as the third most popular character in the entire series, and that's without getting the opportunity to have his fight in the tournament thus far, and overall not really do that much, highlighting the anticipation around this character and likely setting up the authors to make Kintoki not just overpowered, but potentially winning his fight, considering he is in fact the final Japanese fighter in the tournament, who based on these votes is far more popular than others such as Okita Tsuji, Sasaki Kojiro, Susanoo, and even Raiden, meaning Kintoki stocks have definitely gone through the roof with this in regard. Very different to I guess the English speaking audience, who hasn't really been discussing that much in regards to Kintoki since really the beginning of the series. But this was just the beginning of stuff revealed in this poll, so today I'll be breaking down everything. But first, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe here on Mysterious Weeb for even more Record of Ragnarok content. So the magazine revealed the top 24 characters, so now I'll quickly go over the order. At 24th we got Hermes, a character who isn't fighting in the tournament but has been a main commentator since the very beginning. Back in the day there were some theories in regards to him having some other stuff going on, potentially fighting or scheming behind the scenes, particularly with an anime only scene adapting this cover. However, in the last few years, all those series have pretty much died down and Hermes will likely remain as a commentator. But seeing him clash with someone, as he did mention within the Record of Ragnarok story, that he had the desire of brawling or clashing with the likes of Shiva, meaning he's likely very capable and would be something a lot of us would enjoy. Now in 23rd place, coincidentally, is Shiva, a character who may have a controversial stigma when it comes to the Japanese audience, as if you guys didn't know, Record of Ragnarok was actually banned in India due to Shiva's depiction and involvement in the series, something that tends to occur in any media that features Hindu gods, for example. But with that being said, Shiva literally won his fight against a Japanese human fighter, so I don't think his portrayal was bad to any means. And then one of the most wild things is the 22nd place character, the one and only GOAT Rasputin, top of the verse, someone still to this day after 103 chapters who has not been revealed design wise. He was confirmed early on in the series as a human fighter, but since then his name's only been mentioned a few times and that's all we've gotten. But regardless of that, he's already the 22nd most popular character based on the Japanese fandom. Quite based, I'm not gonna lie. Now 21st is Raiden. Similar to Shiva, perhaps the Japanese audience didn't like round 5 potentially. Personally, I prefer Shiva over Raiden, but both of those characters are quite low on my personal ranking, so this is I guess predictable or expected overall. It is quite surprising considering he is the representation of sumo and a Japanese human fighter as well. Then we have the potential protagonist of Record of Ragnarok, Brunhilde. I expected her to be potentially in the top 15, but considering she isn't exactly a fighter, I guess this makes sense, and is the only Valkyrie within the top 24. Something that's not really surprising considering a lot of people actually hate Gull and her involvement in Record of Ragnarok. Now for rank 19, I have one of the biggest surprises in the ranking. We have Adam. When it comes to the English speaking audience or the Western world, Adam is probably in the top 5 most popular characters, but in Japan he's at 19, much lower than I expected, and I may as well confirm it now. Zeus isn't actually within the top 24, meaning Hermes has more fans in Japan than Zeus, one of the most important characters in the entire Record of Ragnarok series, something quite surprising as well. But then we have Lu Bu at 18th. That's fine. I personally don't like Lubu that much, but as a fighter, he definitely belongs within the top 20. Then Leonidas, someone who has quite the large hater fan base within our, I guess, English-speaking fandom, but the Japanese fans, I guess, didn't like him that much as well. But then two surprising placements. Two other Japanese fighters, the only Japanese god outside of the whole Zero and the Lucky God situation, Susanoo coming in at 16th. Perhaps the Japanese fandom didn't really like his fight against Okita that much, or perhaps his insane glaze of his human opponent was actually too much for them as well. My main issue with Susanoo, all things considered. But then at 15th we have Sasaki Kojo, an absolutely go-to character, the first winner for humanity who was able to slay Poseidon, and is well received by most people in the fandom if I had to be honest. And I am quite surprised by this ranking and honestly expected him to be much higher, but I'm glad he's at the very least within the top 15. Moving on to 14th, we have Hercules, someone who will definitely be much lower on my list, but again, as a fighter within the tournament, this makes sense all things considered. 13th is Beelzebub, a decently controversial character who some people hate due to his design and of course what he did to Zero, while other people are pretty diehard fans of Beelzebub, so he either has a dedicated fan base or enough of a fan base to get a pretty high position of 13th. While 12th is Simo, someone who so far in round 11 against Loki has been pretty sick in all regards, no issues for me personally. I've seen some people have complaints with his flashback and the story going down the whole PTSD route, but Simo since the very beginning of the series has been one of the most hyped human fighters, connecting to why we got his design revealed early as well. Then 11th, we have Loki, who somehow is more popular than Simo in Japan. Something in the English speaking or outside of Japan is definitely not the case, that's for sure. With this now bringing us to the top 10, 10th is Okita Tsuji, of course the person who was able to defeat Susanoo. Once again, a swordsman, a Japanese fighter, so him being ranked quite high is expected. I was low-key thinking he would be higher, but perhaps round 10 wasn't received that well, all things considered. Now 9th is my personal favourite character, Jack the Ripper. I'm glad he made it to the top 10, but I would imagine him being quite a bit higher within the top 5 as well. Then 8th is Poseidon, who in the English speaking fandom, he has a, I guess, select few die-hard fans or a dedicated fan base, while the majority of others pretty much hate Poseidon, so him being at rank 8 above characters like Jack the Ripper, Adam for example, and even Sasaki is quite surprising, but I guess they liked his depiction as a god more than a lot of others. Now number 7 is one of the most goated humans thus far, Tesla. Him being here or even higher would be very fair for me. Most people who have read round 8 and the fight against Beelzebub absolutely love Tesla, definitely one of the characters in the newer rounds who's risen up and grown one of the biggest fan bases. Now in 6th place is Hades, someone who similar to Poseidon has a lot of dedicated fans but also a lot of haters as well. At first I was more on the hater side, but now I'm somewhere in the middle. And something to note, I believe around a year ago when the same magazine revealed the Japanese audience's top fights, his one against Hu Wang was actually ranked number 1, so that is a major factor to consider and may actually impact Record of Ragnarok Season 3, which is beginning with that fight, also featuring the seemingly better and updated animation with a new studio working on the series as well. But now onto 5th place, which is actually Apollo. Quite the base placement. Personally, I like Apollo quite a bit, definitely one of my favourite gods so far in Record of Ragnarok. His fight against Leonidas, as many of us know, wasn't the best, but Apollo in his own regard is quite goated, that's for sure, and 5th place is quite based all things considered. Now in 4th we have Thor, who a lot of people describe as a boring character, but I guess a lot of fans in Japan like the badass and overpowered aspects of him, particularly recently where he was able to stop the group fight between Odin, Buddha and Beelzebub pretty much alone as well, absolutely sick. Now in 3rd place, as I already revealed in the intro of today's video, Kintoki. There is a theory going around since his introduction that he's half demon, and now that we have his official color scheme, it seems as though this may be a tattoo, or the whole demon aspect is coming more true with half of his body being red potentially, something pretty interesting as well. Now 2nd, the character I would view as probably the most popular Record of Ragnarok fighter thus far in the overall fandom, like globally. We have Buddha, absolutely goated for many reasons, my personal 2nd favorite character as well. Everyone loves Buddha, and potentially Kintoki being friends with him influence his placement as well. But now number 1, by quite a large margin as well, we have Hu Wang, the person no one really expected to defeat Hades during the time that round was coming out month by month, but the Mad Lad was able to acquire that victory, and while dominating for the majority of that fight, with the conclusion being one of the most wild chapters we've ever had in Record of Ragnarok. I'm still waiting for him to return and play a commentating position, with it being a fun fact that he's a victor within the Record of Ragnarok tournament who's taken the longest to return since his victory as well, so I'm definitely waiting for that, and considering he's the most popular character from the Japanese audience's perspective, that is absolutely going to happen in the future as well, and he may even play a role in post-Ragnarok events, considering all the stuff in regards to Odin, who surprisingly didn't make this list as well, alongside a few other characters which I'm quite surprised about. Now, with everything I've broken down in this video said, it's important to note that this is just the Japanese fans' perspective, and I believe the voting amount for the poll was around 6,000 as well, meaning the amount of fans actually participating in this isn't large by any means, but considering it was only Japanese fans and likely die-hard ones considering they had to vote through the magazine from my knowledge, it is a good way to kind of see how the audience and authors closest connected to the series may impact stuff in the future, particularly with the likes of Kintoki and Rasputin, fighters in the future, who already made it into the top 24 most popular characters. So perhaps rip to the likes of Nostradamus, but if you haven't already, consider becoming a member like these absolute mad lads, and if you haven't already, check out the playlist with all the Record of Ragnarok videos available for you right here on screen, and that's it guys, peace.